Hi, everybody. Welcome to Evolve, where we focus on the evolution of leadership. I'm Kim Ford, your host, and today I'd like you to meet a very special guest. Ryann, can you take a minute to introduce yourself and your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Ryann Dowdy. I am the founder of a community called Be in the Room. We are I like to call us a peer-led mentorship community where we bring together smart, high-achieving, successful women to have open and honest and vulnerable conversations about career, about life, about leadership. What's really cool about what we do, Kim, that's a little different than a lot of other communities is we actually combine entrepreneurs and employees. So this idea that those are two different spaces is kind of wild, especially when it comes to leading a company and balancing, business and home and life and all the demands on our time and our attention as female leaders. So I wanted to create that container where we could bounce ideas off of one another and really learn from one another in true mastermind fashion.
Well, I have had the opportunity to read a little bit about your background, but I don't think my audience has. Do you mind just taking us kind of a run through your unique journey? Because you definitely have one.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. So I started my career selling radio advertising in Orlando, Florida at the age of 21. So I had a 15-year corporate career selling advertising in some way, shape, or form. If you can advertise on it, I've sold it in some capacity. Never really intended, Kim, to ever leave that capacity. Started to get a little antsy after my first son was born in 2017. And honestly thought that I was looking for an industry change. I just thought I needed to shake things up and discovered entrepreneurship and the expert side of entrepreneurship, which allows you to use a skill set that you have and make money leveraging your skills and experience. And so I jumped in with both feet. Finally left the corporate world in 2019 and spent a lot of time training in sales. So I taught sales to new entrepreneurs. Started a second company with a business partner teaching sales to entrepreneurs, sales teams, and then ultimately made a really large reinvention at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, and launched the Be in the Room community. So it's been an interesting journey for sure.
Wow, that's incredible. So tell me about what role does community play in the professional growth stage? Like, how does that work together?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think as humans, right, like we were never designed personally or professionally to do life alone, right? That's just not who we are. If you go like all the way back, right? Like being ousted from, from the tribe was like, it was instant death, right? Like if we think of like caveman days, if you got left behind, like you were going to get eaten by a tiger, like period, end of story, right? So from the very beginning, we were designed to be together. And
Mhm.
what I have found, especially for women, I can't speak for men, but for women, as we tend to climb the ladder and become more and more successful, we wind up really realizing that we're different than a lot of our counterparts, right? There's a lot of drama and a lot of talk and about, what that looks like for us. So for me, I think for women in particular, being part of a community of people who really understand us, who are, experiencing similar situations, similar challenges, similar, pulls on our time and, pulls on our heart that we experience so much as women in business. I think is really, really important. And for many people can be the difference, the make or break of really how high you climb, if that's your desire, or just surrounding yourself with other like-minded people who support you on your journey either way. So for me, I think it's mission critical, right? That's the cliche of like, your network is your net worth. And our male counterparts in business do this beautifully, right? They do it by way
They
of
do. Well, they have the good old boys club, and
absolutely. I
still
mean,
don't have the good old, and that's kind of what you're
right?
building, right? The good old
Yeah.
girls club in many ways. And I don't know. You probably don't know my background either, but one of the things that I've been heavily involved with is I'm in a very male dominated industry.
Sure.
And as a woman, it was really hard coming out of high school, going into this space, being accepted, being respected.
Yeah.
I was told many times, "Oh, you should do this. This isn't for women," and it gets old. It gets old really, really fast. And
Mhm.
a couple years into my career, I was asked to be on this board. Long story short, I converted an organization and started the Pittsburgh chapter of Crew. And Crew is commercial real estate women. And Crew's come a long way, and I still find a lot of women really hard on other women.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's this judgmental thing, I don't know, but it's something that becomes really challenging, right?
Yeah.
Because to me, I want to embrace other women and support them and help them as I grow. I want to pull them along with me.
Yeah.
And some of them don't want to jump on the rope.
No.
And so it's this interesting dilemma that the good old boys club like welcomes everybody, and anybody that has a chance to jump into the good old boys club jumps. But then
Right.
the girls club, they're resistant.
Right. Yeah.
So
I,
like talk about impacts on both sides. Like you're on this unique journey
right.
where, you have clearly great initiatives. Great. I love the concept of community together with entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But like what are the impacts on both sides of that?
Yeah, so I think that's so true, right? I have been in female focused spaces in some way, shape, or form, probably since 2016, 2017. So I don't know what it was or why the draw was to supporting women. And actually, I can pin it. I'm going to pin it down to two things for you, Kim. One, I grew up I played volleyball. I was an athlete. I was an athlete in college, and then I coached young girls, right? So I coached like 12-year-old was the age range I really loved. And just kind of helping them step into that confidence. But it actually really started when I was in a leadership role in a company and I started interviewing. I started hiring, and I would see the difference between the way men and women presented themselves in the
Yeah,
interview, at job fairs, in their follow-up, in their conversation, on their resumes. And so that's, I think, what pulled me towards women. But for me, the reason I want to create these spaces is because the demands are different on both of us, right? So we are not anti-men, and by any stretch of the
no,
imagination, but the numbers are very clear, right? The demands on women are completely different. And the data shows us that since the pandemic, that women have not returned to work, right? So there's clearly work that we need to do as women together. So I think for me, that's the most important part. And I think some of the resistance of like joining in it's the whole, and this is going to sound a little snarky and it's not intended, it's the whole like boss babe culture, right? Like the girl boss, shepreneur, kind of thing where it's
yeah,
created that I don't want to be part of that, right? Like I want to support other women, but I want to be recognized as a business owner or as a leader. I
yeah,
don't want there to be some qualifier in front of my title or my accomplishments because I am women. So I think that's where some of that resistance comes from, Kim, is
makes
like,
sense.
well, if I jump in with this group of women, I'm going to be put in that box of like, it was like the opposite of like the female women haters club, right? Like whatever
Yeah,
that is, or the
yeah,
she-man women haters club from, you know what I'm saying? And so that's not really what we're here to create. What we're here to do is figure out how do we work together to make changes, to bring in our allies, to, show up powerfully. And I mean, I love a good, hashtag girl boss, but I don't want it to be qualified either that if I'm successful running a business or, doing something in any way, shape, or form, I don't want it qualified by my gender. And I think that's where some of the fear comes in for women.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So talk about the entrepreneur side. So what is the role of the entrepreneur in what you're building?
Yeah, so the reason I found the need for this space in entrepreneur land, and then I was able to relate it to my corporate experience. So a lot of what I see happen in entrepreneur spaces, Kim, is there are a lot of mastermind groups, but many of them are qualified by the amount of money you make, how big your
Yes.
company is, the industry that you're in, that sort of stuff. And to me, that feels really short-sighted, right? That's what puts us in an echo chamber. That's what creates problems, right? When
Yeah.
we're all in the same room with the same people, male, female, coach, agency owner, professional services, manufacturing, whatever, when we put all the same people in the same room together, there's definitely an education opportunity, but there's also a space where we cut off any outside perspective. So I wanted to bring a space to entrepreneur land where I was like, I don't care how much money you're making. I care what journey you're on, right? Like we say the common denominator in our membership is the desire to be the best version of yourself, right? To show up every day as the best version of you. And so I think for the entrepreneur, that was hard to find, right? People wanted to come and get into more elite spaces, but maybe they were coming with 20-year corporate career, but because your business was brand new and you weren't making X number of millions of dollars or don't have a team of 6, you can't get into that space. Well, how do we get more people into that space of
Right.
$1 million business or having a team of 5 if anybody in those spaces isn't willing to have those conversations with those people? So I wanted to kind of
Right.
break those chains. And then the reason I pulled my corporate friends in is two reasons, Kim. One, first and foremost, I realized when my business hit the infamous $1 million mark and we were able to get into rooms that my 15-year corporate year of experience, the thousands and thousands of clients I've sat in front of in my career, the hundreds of salespeople I have trained, that I had more business acumen than most entrepreneurs having their little finger in my corporate career, right? And
Yeah.
I was like, but I'm not welcome in this room because my own P&L isn't here. Like that's crazy town to me. So that was kind of the first reason. And the second reason is, you mean to tell me that I have a girlfriend specifically who, worked for Salesforce for 10 years. Like, you mean to tell me that someone who worked at Salesforce for 10 years doesn't have something to bring to the table from an education, from an entrepreneur perspective? So there was that. And then finally, I knew when I worked for a medium-sized company that there was nowhere to go for support, right? Like, I had my CEO, I had my counterparts, and then the team of people who worked for me. We were probably about a $4 to $6 million company at the time. And there was nowhere to go to be like, well, so I'm having this problem with this employee, or this isn't really meshing well, or, can I brainstorm this with you, for anybody who wasn't my boss or someone who reported to me? And so I just saw these gaps in these places of isolation in both markets. And because I tend to be a little bit of a disruptor, I'm like, let's bring it together and blow things up and change the world.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And it's so funny now more than ever, I'm finding a lot of business leaders really struggling with a lot of things, right? On the other side, or we hope it's on the other side of the pandemic, that
Right.
business leaders more than ever are struggling making decisions, that they're kind of delaying these. I mean, what do you think is causing some of this fear in decision making?
Access to too much information.
Right, because it depends on the source, right? It depends what you're reading, where you're getting the information, and how it's skewed.
You can literally find a case for anything online, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and justify it.
literally anything,
Yeah.
and justify it, and
Yeah.
find a large
Even
group
your
of people
bad
who feel
behavior,
the
you
same
can fully
way.
justify. Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of that, and then I also think it's a lack of trust in ourselves. So that was one thing that I think was really powerful for me, Kim, in getting into entrepreneurship, was the personal development work I had to do to be able to run a company. Was totally different than what it looked like when I was an employee, right? When I was a director,
Oh yeah.
running a team, it was just different. And so I think we have also just been so conditioned as a society to do what we're told, that we've lost touch with trusting ourselves, right? With going with our gut. So then we go looking for information, and because we have access to so darn much of it, we're like, oh, shoot, right? Like, I can make a case for anything, and we've really lost that trust with ourselves.
Yeah, we have. But, the problem is wrong decisions, they're going to happen no matter how good we are, how great we are, how much we study, how much we read, how many people we talk to about it. I mean, somebody told me actually last night, I was sitting at happy hour with a client and a friend, and he looked at me and he said, trust your gut.
Yeah.
And you have to trust your gut more than assessments, than information, than materials. And it's, in many ways, he's right. I think the best decisions sometimes I've made have been like, it's this, I don't know if it's this little butterfly or this something spoke to me, and there was just this nudge that I felt like it was the right thing to do, even though it sounded crazy to somebody else.
Of course. I think that, and that's such, we just don't do it, right? Like, it's the access to information, I think, has done that to us. And then the path, right? We're taught. So, when you look at my bio, we tell the story that, like, I did everything I was supposed to do in life, right? Like,
Yeah.
I grew up, I got good grades, I was a scholarship athlete, I went to college, I got a master's degree, I climbed the ladder, I got married, I had kids, I bought a house, I did everything. And at the age of 34, I was like, what the heck am I doing with my life? Like, this can't be it. So I think we're just very used to, this is the next step. And so when we have to do that ourselves, but one of the things you even said, sometimes we make wrong decisions. I remember one time having a conversation with clients of mine as like, there's no such thing as a wrong decision. It's just a decision.
Yeah.
And sometimes we like it, sometimes we don't, sometimes it goes the way we want it to, but like, stop labeling good idea, bad idea, right? Good decision, bad decision. It's just a decision, or it's just an idea, and then navigate through it that way. Because as soon as we're like, oh, bad idea, right? Then we get into the shame, and we get into the guilt, and we get into the embarrassment, and we get into judgment, and then we're off to the races, and it's hard to recover.
Right. But how do you trust yourself to move forward? I mean, to me, sometimes you make, like you said, it's not wrong, it's not right, but you make a decision that doesn't go the way you expected it to. And then that next decision comes up. It's
Right.
pretty hard to, I call it a reset, right? We got to reset, think of what we did wrong, what we learned from that experience, and move forward, right?
Absolutely. So to me, it's problem versus opportunity, right? Like, we can look for problems. We can look for all the reasons why that was a bad decision, or we can look for all of the opportunities. And I'm going to give you a specific example. So I shared with you at the end of 2020, the beginning of 2021, I started a second business with a business partner. The original intention, Kim, was that she run her business, I run mine, and we crafted this thing together and hired a team to run it. About 3 months in, 2 months in, we realized that wasn't going to work, right? Like, the business we had started together was exploding, and it needed somebody to put eyes on it. And it made sense for it to be me. My business was much smaller. I was much less established. I was, I was the practitioner in the business anyway, so it made sense for it to be me. So I made the decision to shut down an extremely profitable, it's extremely successful program in business and go all in on being the CEO of this second business, right? And literally within probably 90 days, Kim, I knew that wasn't it for me, right? The values misalignment came up. There were a lot of issues with my business partner. There were all these different things, right? And I could have spent an obscene amount of time beating myself up of like, what were you thinking? Like, that was a ridiculous decision. You lost all this, and now I'm in
Yeah.
this rebuilding
Yeah.
phase. And so I could make that mean a whole lot about myself, about my decisions, about everything else. But instead, I think of like, what did I learn in that 12 months of that business, of that exit, of the legal stuff that I had to jump through, of who I am, who I want to be, what I want to build. Like, the lessons in that far surpass the regret of shutting down a successful, profitable business, right? So
Yeah.
again, to me, it's like, what was the opportunity in that moment? What did I need to learn? What made me better? Because again, I would probably still be teaching sales to new entrepreneurs if I hadn't gone through that path, right? But instead, I'm doing something that really lights me up in a really powerful way. I get to use different skill sets. I get to connect with different people, and it's pretty amazing. So for me, it's always like, do we look for the problems? Do we look for all the things that went wrong, or do we look for the opportunities? And when you start to look for opportunities, again, that's how you build that trust again.
Yeah, that's great. I have two sons and two daughters, and it's really tough raising two daughters because
Mhm.
what they hear and what they've heard, whether
Right.
it's TV shows, reruns, is exactly what you said. It's I go to school, I go to
Mhm.
college,
Yep.
I
Yep.
get married, I have children, I do this, I do that,
Mhm.
and that's what life looks like. And it's really hard to teach children that life doesn't have to look like that. Although that's what it shows in every little sitcom from 30 years ago,
Right. Right.
that's the progression of what your life should be. I mean, how do you like, are you working with some of these younger girls to instill these types of just you can do
Mhm.
anything. You're limiting yourself by thinking and more than anything, they think that's the right order too, which
Right.
is mind-blowing to me. Like you're not supposed to work. You can't have a career.
Right.
And it's amazing. Like it's like, how do we shut that down to make that so incorrect?
Right. When we figure that out, Kim, it's going to be magical. So one of the big picture visions for Be in the Room, right? We're 6 months into our mission, but for me, I actually do really want like the philanthropic side of our business to be getting in front of young women, getting in front
Yeah.
of women in those adolescent years, because those are the years where we start to realize that we can bend ourselves to fit into a box to make ourselves more palatable, right?
Yeah.
Like it was middle school when I remember being told that I was intimidating and I was too much, and boys did not like that.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
remember being judged. I had an older sister and I used to shop in her closet, and I remember being judged for
Yeah.
what I wore. And so it was like,
Oh
okay, well, I
yeah.
have to dress this way and I have to act this way and I have to show up this way to be liked and then to not be made fun of, right? So it's the adolescence. So I do have a big part of that in my heart for sure. I think is so important. And I think it's just by continuing to share our stories, right? So my story, my husband doesn't work. And
Yeah.
I actually say all the time that like I can't even call him a stay-at-home dad anymore because my kids go
All
to
right.
full time. Stay-at-home dad. My oldest will be a kindergartner this year, and then my youngest is 3. And it was funny when she turned 2, he was kind of like, okay, so I think I want to get a job. And I'm like, tell me more. And he's like, no, this kid's gonna kill me. So either like she needs to go to childcare, I need to get a job. And I was like, well, I didn't have one of those. So we put Georgia in daycare. And so we lovingly joke that Kevin is the project manager and I am the project in our family, right?
That's
So that was,
perfect.
yeah, that's kind of what we do. But like, I talk about that a lot. And I mean, I have his okay, because I'm like, how do you feel about this? Like, this has got to be all sorts of interesting things in your ego of what this looks like for you. And he golfs a lot, and his golf buddies are, all like, oh man, you got the life, you got whatever. So, we talk about it a lot, but I think it's sharing the story. Like,
Yeah.
and it was like that before I started a business, right? I also, anybody listening who's still in like a career and you're like, well, you're an entrepreneur. I'm like, no, it was always decided that at some point in time, that if one of us was staying home with our kids, it was him and not me, right? Like,
Right.
he's just infinitely more patient. He's so much more fun than I am. Like, all of the things that is
I don't know.
required.
You seem pretty fun.
Yeah. So that was just always our thing. And so I shared the story, and I think anybody in that non-traditional role should share that story so people can see it done differently, right? And so that's what I think we can do day to day is tell the story, right? You meet somebody young and have a conversation. And it's not just women, it's young men too. So we recently, we did a big family reunion with my mother's family, and we went on vacation with cousins I hadn't seen Kim like literally in my adult life, or their adult life rather, because I'm older. Their adult lives. I was an adult. They were not last time I saw them, but we're talking to my cousin. He's 26, about his career, and he doesn't love his job, but he's like, yeah, but I don't hate it. And I have friends who hate their jobs, you know? And I'm like, what world do we live in that we're like, yeah, it's okay. I don't hate it. So I'm just going to keep doing it. So like, to me, it's not just to women, it's happening to all of us. We're like, well, you know, it doesn't totally suck, so I'm going to keep doing it. So I think for us, our job is to tell people that like, if you don't like I don't believe we were put on this planet to just, you know, not hate our jobs, or to just do whatever, you know, a TV show from 20 years ago says we should do. And I think that's the conversation we need to be having. Like, at what point did we normalize having a job that you don't like? At what point did we normalize, you know, you just suck it up, you know, and just do it? What point did we normalize those things on top of all the other junk that we've normalized?
Yeah, and it seems like at least, I mean, it makes it kind of, it's sad to a certain degree, but if especially young, you know, boys and
Mhm.
girls, if they don't meet people like you that are showing them a different way or explaining that you doesn't have to be this way, a lot of times their parents aren't sharing with them that they can do anything different because that's all that they know. So I have a good friend in Las Vegas, and she's been going around, and universities are calling her and asking her to speak on kindness. So she's going into these universities and actually talking to girls, you know, young ladies,
Mhm.
about kindness and how far kindness can take you. And I just love it. And when I think of kindness and I think of, you know, especially females, one of the things that we all need, and we've all needed this since we were young, is safe places, right? What
Mhm.
are safe places? Where can we be ourselves? Like,
Mhm.
tell me what your thoughts are on those type of, it's a space, right? I mean, what does it look like? How does it have to be? What are your thoughts?
It's hard to create, because even someone who's trying to facilitate that right now, Kim, it's hard because we want to create spaces where you can be yourself and where you can, you know, people have different views and different opinions and different perspectives and all those different things. And I mean, I do think it's hugely challenging, but I think it starts with us, right? If you're like, I want a safe space, be a safe space, right?
Right.
Like, if you want to be that friend who comes to you and tells you something that you would never in a million years do, right? Like, I'm gonna give you another example. I have a girlfriend who, the house 4 doors down went on the market, and it has a pool and a lake view. And so she's like, cool, I want to buy the house. And I think it's the most ridiculous thing in the planet that you were going to move 4 doors down and like tear your life apart and do all these other things, right? That's my personal opinion. But like, I'm not good, you know, like, be a safe space. Go talk to me about it. What about that is attractive to you? Why does that make more sense? And, you know, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And I know that that's a very surface level
Yeah.
example, but it's an example, right? Like, be the safe space. You want a safe space, be the safe space. I literally just did a training yesterday inside the Be in the Room community on conscious leadership. And we talked about the power of our words, and how our words matter, and things like gossip and, you know, mean-spirited conversation, they just need to end. And we need to be the people who, when somebody else is gossiping, say, hey, Kim, I don't really love the direction that this conversation is going. Can we change the subject? Right? Like, we need to be the person who's strong enough to say that, because again, it's always a trickle down effect. Because once we see, again, so I'm just full of stories today. I'm killing it. My niece is 6, turning 7, and there is a mean girl at school. There is a girl that all the other little girls follow. And my sister is like, right, what do I do? And I was like, you tell her to say to the mean girl, I don't really appreciate being talked to like that, so I'm going to go play over there. And Shannon goes, my sister goes, well, I don't want her to be alienated. And I'm like, right. But what if the other little girls are feeling the same way, but they don't have a mom at home telling them to say, I don't feel comfortable being spoke to like that, because maybe her setting that example, 2 or 3 other little girls are going to go with her.
Right.
They just didn't have the mom at home to tell them that it's okay to say, I don't really like being talked to like that, so I'm going to go do something different. And just that little girl seeing your daughter stand up for herself, what if that totally, you know, it's the butterfly effect, right? What if that totally changes the way that she shows up, and the way that she's an example for her friends to show up and her friends to show up? These are kindergartners, right? So if we start when we're young and we teach our children to show up that way, I think that's how we really impact change and impact kindness. And we use our words in a powerful way, not to be mean, but to tell you, I don't like this this conversation, or I don't like the direction this is going, or I don't feel comfortable in this, or I don't appreciate the, being spoken to this way. We can continue this conversation later when we can both calm down a little bit, but we have to be willing to speak up, use our words in a powerful way, respectfully, while setting a boundary. It's so much harder than me just saying it like that. And I know that, but I think that's where we impact change.
Absolutely. And one of the things nobody ever wants to talk about is failure.
Of course.
Nobody ever wants to admit they've failed. And I don't even know, is that even an accurate word? Because at the end of the day, like you mentioned, I mean, I've had startups, I've seen them
Mhm.
through, I've had exits in my, base because I wanted out.
Yeah.
And, if one person deems that failure, I deem that is accomplishment because like you mentioned, I
Mhm.
learned so much going through that process of what's right and what's wrong that it's going to
Mhm.
help everything else I do. So if like to me it's look for the bright side in failure. And so tell me, what are your thoughts there?
I agree. I don't like the word failure, right? Because it has such a negative connotation. But to me, it's part of life. Like there is no achievement without failure,
Yeah.
right? There is no success without loss. And this idea that those things are bad, I don't know where that came from, is crazy, right? Like, find me somebody successful, somebody you look up to, and I don't care if it's in business or pop culture or a
Right.
politician or whatever. Like, find me someone who has not failed or, like you said, had issues in business in all the different ways. So I think we just need to have that conversation. And again, I think it starts little. My kids are 3 and 5, and my son will tell me, "Mommy, I can't." And I'm like, "No, no, no, we don't use those words,
Yeah,
right? Like, I don't say
exactly.
I can't. It's, hey, mom, I'm having a hard time opening this. Can you help me?" And I know that it's so small, but I think it's words. But to me, failure, the energy around the word failure is so broken. And an example, so I used to teach sales, right? So um, I people have such a negative relationship with sales. So I used to talk about, like, sales, the definition of sales is the exchange of a product or service for money.
Right.
That's it. Right? So all the other stories you're telling about yourself about it, right? Gross, yucky, pushy, meh, all the things that you think about it, those are just your thoughts, right? So if we look at the definition of failure, basically says lack of success is the definition. But what is success? Who the heck defines
That's
success?
correct. That's
Right?
correct.
So again, we've got this story about, like, failure means I'm not meant to do this. It means that I'm never going to win. I'm never going to get that job or that amount of money or whatever it is you're chasing. Like, who defines success?
Right. Well, and
Who
success for me is not success for you.
It's a moving target too. I mean,
Yeah.
success 10 years ago versus success now. And now, just for fun, because we're Googling things, success is the accomplishment of an aim or purpose, right? It's accomplishment of an aim.
Anything, whatever your purpose is, whatever you're shooting for.
Bingo,
I don't
right?
know. Success is for me to, sit here for 5 more minutes. Woo, I won. Yes, I feel so good.
Like, but we don't do that, right? We never have fun on that side. We're like,
Yeah.
failure is, I'm gonna send an email and that person's gonna say no, or I'm gonna reach out to that
Yeah.
person and tell me to take a hike, or I'm gonna give this presentation and nobody's gonna like it, right? We tell those stories all day long,
Right.
but we consider ourselves a failure, but we never sit around and think about, like, man, I am killing it at sitting here quietly and enjoying this. We never do that.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. A lot of business leaders and entrepreneurs right now are kind of in a weird spot. I mean, we have this distributed workforce, we have this great resignation, we have this trying to bring people back to work. It's a lot of challenges out there. Do you have
Sure.
one piece of advice right now for business leaders as they try to navigate what's next?
I think it goes back to trust your gut. Right? If it does not feel good to you to bring your people back, like, to make them work in person, then don't. I don't care if your competitor's doing it or somebody else is doing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
stop looking around for the answer.
look at
Stop
yourself.
stop basing your answer, your reaction, the way you're handling, like you said, all the things you discussed, how other people are handling them. Ask yourself first, and then sit down with your advisory team, whoever that is, whether it's, you're in charge or you're on a team of leaders, and sit down and discuss, like, what do we want? Now, what do we think we should, not any of that, and then start there. Because I think that's what's missing from business in general, entrepreneur, corporate, I don't care, is really asking, like, what's the point? What is
Mhm.
the point of the exercise? What are we really trying to do here? And I know when I worked in the corporate world, Kim, that felt very fluffy, but I think if I can imagine, so I worked for an agency that was, we had a board of director, it was 5 guys that had funded the agency and all this other stuff. And they never told us what was going on, right? They would go into a room, they would close the doors, they would close the blinds, they would have board meetings, they would come out. And of course, we'd get a litany of things that needed to be done. And nobody told us why. Nobody told us why or what was happening. And so everybody was just checking their boxes because we're like, oh, well, here's just the list I got. When you enroll people in your mission, when you tell them why or explain to them why this is important or why you're making this decision, other than we've always done it that way, that I think is where the magic is. So it's by really asking ourselves, what do we want? Like in a perfect world, we're not looking at our competitors, we're not looking at anybody else, and we're deciding what kind of business do we want to build? What kind of business do we want to be a part of? What kind of company do we want to work for? What kind of company do we want to recruit employees into? And then start making decisions from there instead of, well, our industry's always done it this way, or our competitors are doing it this way. I think that's what we really need to start doing, is asking like really specific questions about what do we want? What do we want to create? What's the point here? And then enroll our people in that vision. That's where we impact change.
And I love the phrase share the why, because a lot of
Yes.
times people are willing to work much harder if they understand why they're doing it.
Amen.
Why do they matter to the cause? What's the goal? And what can they do to help achieve the goal? Why are we doing this? And so many business leaders they just don't think they have to share that. They keep it to themselves, but that's the value that drives everybody to help them achieve the goal. And
Absolutely.
it's amazing to me. Well, our goal with Evolve is to enable business leaders to learn, connect, and grow together. And I can't thank you enough for spending time with me today and our audience. And thank you. It was wonderful to meet you finally. I get to see you too. This is great.
Awesome.
And thank you again for being here with us today.
Awesome. Thanks, Kim, for a great conversation.
Thanks.